Hey guys, tonight we're going to wander into a quiet space together, a place where the fears that usually rattle around in your head begin to soften, like shadows dissolving at sunset. Imagine, just for a moment, living a life where fear doesn't hold you back. Where challenges arrive, but instead of tightening your chest, they meet you with calm clarity and steady confidence. Sounds pretty good, right? But if you're honest, you might be thinking, well, without fear, I probably wouldn't even pay my bills on time. Don't worry, you'll still get those done. You just won't be carrying that heavy bag of anxiety everywhere you go. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And I'd love it if you drop a quick comment with where you're watching from and what time it is right now. It's always fun to see this little community stretch across time zones and cities. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. A monk once said that fear is like a restless bird, always fluttering and never landing. You'll notice it in the pit of your stomach, in the restless tapping of your fingers on the desk, or in that endless spiral of what-if questions. But here, in this quiet space, we'll slow down enough to watch that bird instead of chasing it. By the end of tonight's path, you'll see that fear isn't a monster to fight, but more like a passing cloud, sometimes big, sometimes dark, but never permanent. And so, our journey begins. 1. Embrace. Impermanence. Picture this. You're scrolling through your phone and stumble on a memory from 3 years ago. Maybe it's a photo of a beach trip, a dinner with friends, or that hairstyle you swore was the best thing ever. You look at it now and think, wow, life has changed so much since then. That moment felt like it would last forever, and yet, here you are, living in a completely different season of your life. That's what the Buddha called anicca impermanence. Everything changes. The good times, the bad times, even the fears that keep you awake at night. Fear often grows because we cling to the idea that things should stay the same. We don't want to lose our job, our health, or the people we love. And just the thought of those changes can send a wave of panic through the body. But here's the truth. Nothing is permanent. When you really let that sink in, it's oddly comforting. Yes, the happiness you feel right now may not last forever, but neither will your pain, your anxiety, or your fear. Think about a time you were convinced you'd never make it through a breakup, a financial setback, maybe that awful week at work where everything went wrong. At the time, it felt unbearable. Yet here you are, listening to this story, proof that you made it through. That's the gift of impermanence, it whispers. This too shall pass. Take a slow breath with me. Inhale and exhale. Notice how even the breath itself is a teacher. No matter how much you want to hold it, you can't keep it. Every inhale turns into an exhale, and every exhale creates space for the next inhale. Life works the same way. The more we try to hold on, the more anxious we become. But if we let the breath flow, we discover peace in its natural rhythm. When you embrace impermanence, you release the need to control every detail. That doesn't mean you stop caring about your goals or your loved ones. It means you stop fighting the natural flow of life. Imagine standing in a river. If you tense up and try to stop the current, you'll exhaust yourself. But if you let the water move and adjust your stance, you'll find balance. Impermanence is that river. Here's a little practice you can try tomorrow. Notice the small changes around you. The way the morning light shifts through your window, the way your coffee tastes slightly different, or the way your mood softens after a good laugh. These subtle reminders train your mind to accept that nothing stays the same, and that's okay. Even your fear, which feels so heavy right now, is just another wave rolling through. There's humor in this too. Think about all the trends we once thought were forever frosted tips, MySpace, Vine videos. At the time, they seemed like they'd never fade, but they did. Our lives are full of those funny reminders that what feels permanent today is often tomorrow's remember when. And here's the real shift. When you stop imagining the worst-case scenarios and trying to freeze life in place, you start to relax into the moment. You begin to trust that even if change comes, and it always does, you'll adapt. Your mind is far more resilient than you give it credit for. So next time fear shows up, instead of clinging tightly and trying to control everything, whisper to yourself, "This is temporary." That simple phrase can be a bridge back to calm. The room falls quiet for a moment. You might even notice your shoulders have dropped a little, the way tension melts once you realize you don't have to hold everything together. That's the soft power of embracing impermanence. But what if fear itself isn't even as real as we think? What if, beyond impermanence, fear is more like a mirage, something the mind creates, but not something solid? That's where our next step leads. 2. See the illusion of fear. Imagine standing on the edge of a tall cliff. The wind brushes your face, your heart beats faster, your palms get sweaty. Your mind begins to scream, "What if I slip? What if I fall? What if this is the end?" But if you pause for a second, what's actually happening? You're just standing there. You're not falling. There's no danger. The fear isn't coming from reality. It's coming from the story your mind is writing. That's the tricky part about fear. It's often nothing more than an illusion. Fear lives in the land of what if. What if I fail this project at work? What if I embarrass myself in front of that person I like? What if something terrible happens tomorrow? It's like your mind is running its own little horror movie, and you're both the audience and the main character. But here's the secret. Fear is not a fact. It's just a thought, a temporary shadow that disappears when you shine the light of awareness on it. Think about it. How many of the things you've worried about have actually happened? We spend hours, sometimes days, spinning worst-case scenarios that never even come true. And even if one of them does happen, it's rarely as catastrophic as our imagination made it out to be. Fear exaggerates. It loves drama. It tells you the plane will crash when really, you're just experiencing turbulence. It tells you people are judging you when really, they're too busy worrying about themselves. Fear thrives when you mistake imagination for truth. So what can you do? First, learn to notice fear without becoming it. The next time you feel that wave of anxiety, try saying quietly to yourself, "Here is fear again." That simple recognition creates space. Instead of being trapped inside the story, you step back and watch it. You become the observer, not the character. In that moment, fear loses some of its power. Try this little exercise. Sit quietly, close your eyes, and picture the fear as a cloud floating through the sky of your mind. You don't have to push it away. You don't have to hold on to it either. Just let it drift. Notice how it changes shape, maybe big and heavy at first, then thinner, lighter, until eventually it dissolves. Fear, like clouds, is never permanent. And here's the wild part. Fear can actually be a sign of growth. When you step outside your comfort zone, when you're about to try something new, fear often shows up. Not because you're in danger, but because you're expanding. Think about learning to drive, speaking on stage, moving to a new city. Fear was there, but so was the possibility of something greater. Instead of running from it, you can learn to see fear as proof that you're stretching beyond the familiar. Let's make it practical. Next time you feel fear before a big conversation or a risky choice, pause. Ask yourself, is this real danger or just my imagination? Most of the time, you'll find it's the imagination. And if it is, remind yourself, fear is a thought. It's not me. That reminder is like flipping a switch in your brain, pulling you back to reality. Take a breath with me now. Inhale, hold, and exhale slowly. Notice how even in the middle of fear, your body can still calm down when you give it permission. The breath becomes your anchor, pulling you back from the storm of what if into the calm of what is. And if you're listening to this right now, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment and share. What's one fear you've realized was mostly in your head? Sometimes saying it out loud, even in a YouTube comment, helps strip it of its power. You'll also see you're not alone. Others in this community are carrying similar illusions. As you start to practice this, you'll notice something shift. Fear comes knocking, but instead of slamming the door or letting it take over the house, you simply open the door, nod politely, and watch it pass by. You're no longer controlled by it. You're bigger than the fear because you're the awareness behind it. The room falls still again. You may even notice that your heartbeat feels steadier, as if your body is learning in real time that fear doesn't have to be in charge. That's the freedom that comes when you see fear for what it really is, a passing illusion, not a permanent truth. And yet, even when we recognize fear as illusion, the mind has a sneaky way of dragging us into the past or throwing us forward into the future. Fear loves to time travel. So how do we bring ourselves back, fully present, right here and now? That's where the next step unfolds. 3. Practice mindfulness. Fear loves to sneak into the cracks between moments. It hides in the past, replaying old mistakes, and it lurks in the future, whispering scary stories about things that haven't happened yet. But in the present, right here, fear has much less power. That's why the Buddha taught mindfulness, the practice of being fully awake and aware in the moment. Picture yourself sitting quietly, maybe with a cup of tea. Your mind wants to drag you back to something embarrassing you said last week, or push you ahead to worry about tomorrow's deadline. Mindfulness says, pause. Notice the warmth of the cup in your hands, the sound of your breath, the feel of the chair holding your weight. In that simple act, you step out of the spiral of fear and into the calm of now. Fear often feels like an urgent alarm. Your chest tightens, your heart speeds up, your breath goes shallow. But mindfulness teaches you to observe instead of react. You can think, this is fear. This is just a thought. This is just a sensation. By naming it, you create space between you and the feeling. That space is freedom. Try this with me. Close your eyes if you can. Inhale deeply through your nose. Hold for a moment, then exhale slowly through your mouth. Notice how your shoulders soften as you do this. Notice the quiet between the inhale and the exhale. That tiny pause is where mindfulness lives. When fear shows up in your thoughts, what if I fail? What if something bad happens? You don't have to wrestle with the thought. You don't have to push it away or believe it either. Instead, observe it like you'd watch a bird fly across the sky. It comes, it goes, and you remain still. The Buddha said, the mind is everything. What you think, you become. Mindfulness helps you stop becoming the fear and instead become the awareness behind it. There's also the body. Fear doesn't just live in the head, it shows up in the body too. That racing heart, that tightness in the chest, that sweaty palm. Through mindfulness, you can notice these sensations without judgment. Instead of saying, this is bad, I need it to stop, you can simply say, this is what fear feels like in my body. You observe with curiosity, almost like a scientist studying an interesting reaction, and the more you watch without resisting, the less frightening it becomes. Here's a funny truth. Sometimes the harder we fight fear, the bigger it grows. It's like trying not to think about a pink elephant. The more you push it away, the more it stomps into your thoughts. But when you observe it mindfully, the elephant starts to wander off on its own. Fear shrinks when it's met with gentle attention. So tomorrow, when you catch yourself spiraling into a fearful thought, try labeling it. Here's fear again. Say it softly, even with a smile. Notice how that instantly makes the thought feel less overwhelming. It turns from a storm into a passing cloud. And while we're here in this shared space, I'd love to know, what's one small mindfulness practice you've tried before? Maybe it's breathing, maybe it's journaling, maybe it's just noticing the taste of your coffee in the morning. Share it in the comments. I promise your idea might inspire someone else who's watching alongside you tonight. Mindfulness isn't about perfection. You don't need to sit cross-legged for an hour or chant a mantra to get it right. It can be as simple as paying attention to the sound of rain, the way your pet curls up at your feet, or the feeling of your own breath moving in and out. Small acts of awareness build into a steadier mind. As you practice, you'll find that fear may still knock on the door, but it doesn't storm inside as often. You pause, you breathe, and suddenly you have a choice. You don't have to react impulsively. You don't have to let fear drive the car. You're back in the driver's seat. The room grows quiet now. You might even feel a little more present in your own body as you listen. That's the subtle gift mindfulness offers. It reminds you that right here, right now, you are safe. Fear lives in imagined moments, but mindfulness brings you back to reality, where calm and clarity live. And yet, if fear is a part of suffering, what does that mean for us as human beings? What if fear isn't just personal, but universal, woven into the fabric of life itself? That's where our path is leading next. 4. Understand the nature of suffering. Fear can feel so personal, like a shadow that follows only you. But the Buddha taught something profound. Suffering is universal. Every human being, no matter how successful, wealthy or wise, faces suffering in some form. And fear of failure, fear of loss, fear of rejection, even fear of death is simply one expression of that universal suffering. Think about the last time you were afraid. Maybe it was an exam, maybe a job interview, maybe waiting for a phone call you didn't want to receive. In that moment, it felt like the weight of the world was pressing on your chest. But if you paused and looked around, you'd see that others were facing similar fears. The student sitting next to you was worried about failing. The person across the room feared not being chosen. The friend you texted was terrified of losing someone they loved. Suddenly, the fear doesn't feel like your private burden, it feels like part of being human. The Buddha called this dukkha, the reality of suffering. Not because life is hopeless, but because recognizing it helps free us. When you understand that fear is not a personal flaw, but a shared human condition, it loses some of its sharpness. You realize, I am not broken. I am not alone. I am experiencing what billions of people before me have also felt. That realization brings compassion, both for yourself and for others. Imagine sitting in a crowded airport. Look around. Everyone you see is carrying something invisible. The woman scrolling on her phone might be terrified about her health. The man sipping coffee could be worried about losing his job. The child clinging to their parent may fear being left behind. Fear threads through every life, in countless shapes and sizes. Once you see that, you begin to soften toward your own fears. They're not proof that you're weak, they're proof that you're alive. There's a kind of relief in that. If suffering is universal, then you don't have to fight it as if it's some personal curse. You can accept it as part of the human story. And with acceptance comes freedom. The freedom to stop blaming yourself, the freedom to stop pretending you're the only one struggling. You can meet fear with kindness instead of judgment. Try this the next time fear hits. Instead of saying, "Why me?" whisper, "This too is human." That small shift changes everything. You're no longer isolating yourself with the fear, you're connecting to the great web of human experience. In that connection, the fear feels lighter, less overwhelming. It also helps you connect with others. Have you ever shared a fear out loud and realized the person across from you feels the same? It's almost funny how we all think our fears are unique until someone says, Yeah, me too. That moment of shared humanity dissolves the illusion of separation. Fear shrinks when it's shared. And right here, in this community, you can feel that connection. If you're comfortable, share in the comments one fear that you've carried, and you may find someone else reading who nods and says, "I know that feeling too." That simple act reminds us we are never walking this path alone. The Buddha didn't stop at saying suffering is universal. He also said it can be understood and transformed. Fear is not the end of the story. It is a teacher pointing us toward greater awareness, patience, and compassion. But to learn from it, we first have to stop seeing it as the enemy and start seeing it as part of life. Take a breath. Inhale slowly. Exhale gently. As you sit with the awareness that suffering is universal, notice the softening inside you. The fear you carry is not just yours, it's part of the shared fabric of humanity. In that recognition, you can relax. You can release the pressure of being the only one. And maybe you'll even smile at the irony of it. The very thing that makes fear so painful, its universality, is also what makes it bearable. Because in every moment you're afraid, someone else, somewhere in the world, is afraid too. You are never truly alone in this. The room grows still again, the silence carrying a strange comfort. This is the gentle truth. Fear is part of suffering, and suffering is part of life. But if suffering and fear come from clinging, from holding too tightly to what we want or what we fear losing, then maybe the way forward is to loosen our grip. That's where the next step leads to the freedom found in letting go of attachment. 5. Let go of attachment. Fear often hides behind the things we cling to the most. We fear losing our job because we're attached to security. We fear losing a relationship because we're attached to love and belonging. We fear failing because we're attached to our identity as someone who succeeds. The Buddha called this craving and clinging tanha, the thirst that keeps us running in circles, always grasping, always afraid. Think of a time you've clutched your phone too tightly, waiting for that text, or refreshing your email every 5 minutes, hoping for good news. Notice how the attachment itself creates anxiety. If the message doesn't come, you panic. If it comes and isn't what you want, you spiral. The object isn't the problem, it's the grip. Letting go of attachment doesn't mean not caring. It doesn't mean you stop loving your partner or stop working hard at your job. It means you loosen your grip so those things no longer define your peace of mind. When you can love without clinging, work without obsessing, and live without tying your worth to outcomes, fear loses its fuel. Imagine holding sand in your hand. If you squeeze too tightly, the grains slip through your fingers. If you hold gently, the sand rests easily in your palm. That's non-attachment. It's not about pushing life away. It's about holding it lightly. Try this experiment tomorrow. Whatever you're working on, a project, a conversation, a personal goal, remind yourself, I'll give my best, but I don't control the result. That phrase is liberating. You still care, you still try, but you stop letting the outcome rule your emotions. Fear thrives when we demand guarantees, but life has never offered guarantees. What it offers is moments, each one temporary, each one enough. Sometimes fear comes from trying to control what's uncontrollable. We want every detail planned, every outcome certain, but life is unpredictable. You can prepare, you can act wisely, but you can't script everything. And isn't that what makes life alive? Think about your best memories. Most of them weren't planned perfectly. They unfolded, unexpected, unforced. By releasing the need to control, you give yourself space to breathe, space to be surprised, and space to feel safe even in the unknown. This doesn't mean indifference. Non-attachment isn't about becoming cold or detached from life. It's about enjoying things fully without letting them own you. You can laugh with friends without fearing the day you'll part. You can enjoy success without tying your entire identity to it. You can love deeply without believing that love will always stay the same. Take a slow breath now. Inhale and exhale. Imagine loosening the grip of your mind, just a little. Imagine placing down a heavy backpack you've carried for too long. That's the feeling of non-attachment, not losing something but gaining freedom. And here's a simple reminder. Every fear tied to attachment carries the whisper, "What if I lose this?" Next time that whisper shows up, answer it gently. If it leaves, I'll still be here. If it changes, I'll still be whole. That phrase cuts through the fear like sunlight breaking through a cloud. I'd love to hear from you on this one. Share in the comments. What's one thing you've learned to let go of, or at least loosen your grip on? Your story might give someone else the courage to do the same. As you reflect on this, notice how your body softens. Fear feels less sharp when you no longer cling so tightly. You begin to sense that peace isn't about holding on. It's about opening your hand. The room falls still again, the silence carrying a lightness this time. And in that silence, a new question arises. If letting go loosens fear's grip, what helps us when fear doesn't vanish right away? What quality steadies us through uncertainty, giving us the patience to endure? That's the next step on this path. 6. Cultivate patience. Fear often feels like a clock ticking too loudly in a quiet room. It grows from our impatience, our restless demand that life should unfold on our schedule. We want certainty now, answers now, safety now. But the Buddha taught a gentle antidote. Patience. Patience isn't passive, and it isn't weakness. It's a strength that steadies you when fear makes you want to rush, escape, or control. Think about waiting for test results or waiting for a job interview response. The in-between time can feel unbearable. Your mind races with possibilities, most of them scary. That's impatience feeding fear. The truth is, life rarely works on our timeline. Things take the time they take, and the more we fight that, the more anxious we feel. Patience doesn't remove uncertainty, but it teaches us how to live peacefully with it. Try to notice how impatience shows up in your body. The bouncing leg, the tight jaw, the restless checking of your phone. Patience asks you to pause, take a breath, and allow the moment to be what it is. It's not easy, but with practice, it transforms the way you experience fear. Instead of scrambling for control, you sit with the unknown. You discover you can survive the waiting, and that discovery builds courage. There's also the fear of delay. We worry that success won't come quickly enough, that healing won't happen soon, that happiness is always just out of reach. But patience shows us that growth takes time. A tree doesn't sprout overnight. It pushes roots into the soil for years before reaching the sky. Your life works the same way. By practicing patience, you allow your roots to deepen. You stop demanding instant results, and you trust that progress is still happening, even when you can't see it. And then there's the fear of discomfort. Fear often comes when we feel uneasy, whether emotionally, mentally, or physically. Impatience makes us want to run away, to fix it immediately. But patience teaches us to sit with discomfort without panic. Think of a long run or a tough workout. The first few minutes feel impossible, but if you stick with it, your body adapts. Patience with fear works the same way. The longer you allow yourself to sit with the feeling, the more you realize it won't break you. Patience also means kindness toward yourself. Many of our fears come from harsh self-judgment. I should be further along by now. I shouldn't make mistakes. I shouldn't feel scared. But patience whispers, it's okay. Growth takes time. You are learning. With patience, you stop punishing yourself for not being perfect. You give yourself the same compassion you'd offer a friend. And when you stop fearing your own failures, you begin to relax into life's natural rhythm. Let's try something together. Place one hand gently on your chest. Inhale slowly. Exhale fully. Tell yourself quietly, I have time. I can wait. Notice how that softens the urgency. Fear tells you the world is on fire. Patience reminds you the flame is smaller than it seems, and you don't have to burn with it. And here's a moment to connect. In the comments, share a time when patience helped you through fear. Maybe you waited for the right opportunity. Maybe you learned to sit with an uncomfortable feeling until it passed. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear tonight. The beautiful irony is that fear often shrinks the moment you stop demanding that it disappear right away. Patience allows fear to exist without letting it rule you. Over time, the fear loses intensity, like a wave that crests and then rolls gently back into the sea. The room grows quiet now, a stillness filled with trust. Trust that you don't have to rush your life. Trust that time itself is part of the healing. And as patience settles into your heart, a new realization appears. If impermanence softens fear, if illusion reveals its tricks, if mindfulness steadies you, if suffering connects you, if letting go frees you, and patience calms you. Then together, these lessons form a path where fear becomes not a prison, but a teacher leading you toward freedom. That's the journey we've been walking, step by step, and yet, to carry it forward, we'll need to weave these lessons together, letting them shape the way we live each day. As we come to the end of this journey together, notice how the rhythm of the story has slowed, like waves softening as they reach the shore. Tonight, we've walked through fear, step by step, discovering not how to fight it, but how to see it, breathe with it, and gently let it go. The Buddha's teachings remind us that fear is not an enemy to be crushed, but a visitor to be understood. A passing guest in the house of your mind. Think back for a moment to the lessons you've heard. Impermanence, whispering that all things, even your deepest worries, eventually pass. The illusion of fear showing itself for what it is. Just a thought, not reality. Mindfulness pulling you back from the storms of past and future into the calm of now. The truth of suffering reminding you that fear is shared, that you are not alone. The practice of letting go, teaching your heart to hold life lightly, and patience, softening urgency into trust. Together, they weave a tapestry of courage and peace. You may already feel a shift inside you, your breath a little deeper, your shoulders a little lighter. That is the quiet strength these teachings offer. Not dramatic, not flashy, just steady, gentle, and real. Like a lantern glowing softly in the night, guiding you forward without demanding you rush. And now, as your body begins to rest, imagine laying down the burdens of the day. Each inhale clears the mind. Each exhale releases a little more fear. You don't have to solve everything tonight. You don't have to be perfect. You only have to be here, breathing, resting, alive. That is enough. Before we close, I'd love for you to take a moment and share in the comments. What part of tonight's journey stayed with you the most? Which lesson felt like it spoke directly to you? Your reflections may help another listener find comfort too. And if you'd like to keep walking this path together, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. That way, you won't miss the next story we'll explore. As the lights dim in your mind, let these final words linger softly. You have the power to face your fears, not by force, but by understanding. You have the strength to live with courage, peace, and freedom. In the next video, we'll step into a new story, one that invites us to explore the art of stillness and the hidden joy in doing nothing at all. But for now, rest in this quiet moment and let your body drift wherever it needs to go. This is your time to rest, to soften, to dream. End of script. Sweet dreams.